So, I saw this meme the other day, and the first thing I thought was the reason they don't do this is because it's not really that marketable. No one was willing to drop millions of dollars on a failed series just to remake it. Unless you're Fox trying to keep the rights to the Marvel properties? RIP New Mutants and Fan 4-Stick. Or when you want to remake series so you can just milk people's nostalgia. This one goes out to The Mummy. RIP Dark Universe as well. Or when you just want to make an actual marketable franchise of all your own characters. Shout out to the DC Extended Universe, but who the fuck really wanted the Snyder Cut? But then you have companies like Disney who just cannibalize every franchise they own to make money. From Star Wars to Marvel, and man, even the Muppets. But what Disney has been famously known for recently, besides basically monopolizing how we view media, is their live-action remakes, which are completely lackluster. Live-action remakes of Disney movies isn't really a recent thing. I mean, in the 90s they remade 101 Dalmatians with Glenn Close, which was fine. It had Dr. House and Ron Weasley's dad in it. But when I talk about Disney remakes, I'm talking about the more modern remakes that literally turn 90-ish minute cute animated films into 2-hour lifeless shells of their original lore. It started with Maleficent, and from there it was just downhill of lackluster remakes, ranging from Will Smith's Aladdin and The Lion King. Wait, hold up. Is The Lion King a live-action remake? For real, those lions aren't real, they're fucking CGI. Why do we call this a live-action remake? It's just an animated movie, but with extra steps. Anyhow, moving along, the reason we're talking about these Disney remakes is because we're here to talk about the most recent one, Mulan. So, full disclosure before we go into this video, there's a lot to unpack about this film. So, I will be going with first talking about why the movie failed as a movie and a remake, and then I'll go into the political things outside of the movie. Now, I can't go further into this video without being honest with myself. I came into this film already having a bias, because Mulan, the 1998 animated film, means so much to me. Because, well, I'm Asian. I think you probably got that when a handful of videos I've made have talked about why Asian representation matters to me. And Mulan had an effect on me, and it was really important. Seeing a person of Asian descent being able to break out of her shell and be the person she wants to be, and not what people want her to be, is so empowering. It impacted me, and I can only imagine how it impacted Asian girls like my sister and cousins. So I didn't come into the live-action movie feeling positive whatsoever. I'll just be real, guys. I went in with a little chip on my shoulder. I saw how Disney remakes hurt people who love the original. I remember my ex-wife loathing the Aladdin remake because they ruined one of her favorite songs, One Jump. So, when I found out Disney was going to remake Mulan, I was not excited, and I was right not to be. I wish this was a time I could say, holy shit, I was wrong. This Mulan live-action movie is what I imagined and more. But I'd be lying to myself. And I don't want to sound hyperbolic, but honestly, I hate this movie, and that's because of one thing. And that is because the Americanization of Eastern media. So, what does this mean? Well, when Disney first had this idea to remake Mulan, there was one thing that was going through the Asian community's conversation tree, and that was, will they whitewash Mulan? I've talked about whitewashing before in my last Airbender video, but to summarize, as defined by Merriam-Webster, to whitewash is to alter in a way that favors, features, or caters to white people, such as casting a white performer in a role based on a non-white person or character, which at this time was a real problem because when casting started, we were going through what I call the ScarJo incident, where Ghost in the Shell, a cyberpunk anime series movie adaptation, hired Scarlett Johansson to play Major Kusanagi. A lot of people weren't happy, and I understand why, because the Major is portrayed as Japanese in the anime. But she wasn't the first, but her sacrifice had made Hollywood more mindful. Is what I would say, but no, they're still bad. Sure, Mulan has an all-Asian cast of characters, but where my problem lies is with this. Yes, you have an all-Asian cast, that's great, but let's take a look at the production team. So, when I look into Mulan's 2020's IMDb page, I see this. The director. White. Okay, what about the writers? They have 4 of them. All of them white. The art director? Wow, he's white. Okay, but come on. Click on the costumes and it'll be white. Are there any Asian people that helped? Oh right, the fucking stunt team. So, there's a problem with this. I know what you're thinking. What's the big deal? Let's take a look at the movie Crazy Rich Asians and the TV show Warriors on Cinemax. These were picked out of random, of course, and will never come up any other time on my channel ever again. I'm lying. I feel like you know why I picked these shows in particular. Because Crazy Rich Asians came out in 2018 and Warriors came out in 2019. So it's around the time Mulan would be starting pre-production of some sort. And another thing, all these pieces of media have in common is Asian stories with a majority of their cast being Asian. But when I click on their IMDb page, the first thing I notice is writing and directing. Although not all directors on Warrior, there is at least one Asian director. Crazy Rich Asians, John Chu is Asian as fuck. Writing, there's an Asian writer on Warrior and an all-Asian writing team on Crazy Rich Asians. Now, costume design and art design seems more Western for Warrior because it's a kung fu western set in San Francisco's Chinatown in America during the 1800s. But with Crazy Rich Asians, all of the production had at least some sort of Asian representation. I mean, come the fuck on guys, it's 2020. If you tell me you want to make Mulan as authentic and respectful to the Eastern roots as possible, don't you think that to be as authentic as possible is to take more than just, hey, guys, it's Asian enough? Yeah, sure, in the 90s you could get away with it, but nowadays, hell no. This is as bad as whitewashing in my opinion because you're doing the same thing, and that's being inauthentic to a culture because you think the bare minimum will do. But hold on, we have movies like Kung Fu Panda who are able to take Asian cultures and respectfully create an Eastern feel without feeling offensive. And that this movie isn't really actually going to be based on the 1998 animated film, but more off of the Ballad of Mulan, the poem about the hero Hua Mulan, so they want to be as authentically Chinese as possible. So, did they get that right? I may be Asian, but I'm not Chinese, I'm Filipino. So I watched a few videos by Chinese YouTubers about this matter. The one I love to bring up is a YouTuber called C. Ran, called Everything Culturally Along with Mulan, and how they could have fixed it. I cannot do her video justice. You should totally watch her video. She is so charming and it has a personality of April Ludgate from Parks and Rec, so all her hot takes and burns have a certain sting that is just enjoyable to listen to. The link for her video is down below. But what I got from her video is that it wasn't really authentic to Eastern storytelling. So she goes to explain that the idea of dark magic and shape-shifting witches is a Western concept, and that this movie is written more like a Western fantasy than an Eastern epic. And how they wanted it to sound Asian is by throwing in buzzwords like honor and talking with my ancestors. One of the biggest complaints that C. Ren had, and others, was they used Chi in the movie. So in the movie, Chi is like this end-all superpower that allows Mulan to have Dragon Ball Z-like abilities, but just mainly only her. But Chi is actually life force energy that everyone has. No one person has more Chi than another person. She calls out Disney for being historically inaccurate. They chose certain things just to have a pretty aesthetic that didn't make sense in ancient China. But does also say they did manage to be accurate using the Rorans instead of the Huns because it would be racially insensitive to use Huns. And also something I didn't realize, one of my favorite scenes is the haircutting scene is also historically accurate. Which is eye-opening to me, but kind of sucked because I thought that scene had so much meaning to it. So we talked about how they weren't actually accurate about treating Chinese culture and aesthetics, but were they accurate to the Ballad of Mulan? No, they were wrong about that too. The Ballad of Mulan is a poem, so I can give them the benefit of the doubt that they could fill in the blanks wherever they want. But the director Nico Kara said Mulan wasn't supposed to be a superhero movie, and she had depth. But that depth isn't there, and Mulan is written just like it would be a simple Marvel movie. How did this happen? Like, you had a great starting point using the ballad. The story is literally a story about it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, it's about overcoming your obstacles. So, I'm about to spoil Mulan, the poem. Mulan was a soldier in the army for over 10 years and no one knew she was a woman. It was not until she retired and her comrades came to visit her to see her in a dress that they finally realized that she was a woman. To quote the ending lines of The Ballad of Mulan, her comrades were all amazed and perplexed. Traveling together for 12 years, they didn't know Mulan was a girl. The he-hare's feet go hop and skip. The she-hare's eyes are muddled and fuddled. Two hares running side by side, close to the ground. How can you tell if I am a he or a she? This line is important because the end-all message of the story is that her being a woman didn't matter because it had nothing to do with her strength. And in the live-action movie, they show the hares running in the beginning of the movie, which makes this scene very disingenuous to the final poem because of how they handled the movie. And this leads me to the next question. What is the message of Mulan 2020? Because I can tell you what the message of the 1998 film was. To quote Nick Lachey's boy band 98 Degrees, "True to your heart, you must be true to your heart." Side note, have you ever rewatched a music video and just thought, man, this was of its time and it just needs to stay there? That would be it. But the whole core of the 1998 animation is the message be who you want to be and follow your own path. In the cartoon movie, Mulan goes on a journey of self-understanding. When she starts, she doesn't really know who she is or who she's supposed to be. And it isn't until she leaves to save her father's life by turning into his son that she works hard and becomes entangled in a war. It is no longer to protect her father, but to protect all the innocent people of China. Not China as a country, but the people in it. I have to clarify this because in the live-action remake, Mulan is doing it because she wants to keep the status quo, which is the first mistake of the message of Mulan 2020. Mulan 2020's message is similar-ish to the animated 1998 film, but they managed to make it so insincere when they portray it, because the message of this film is trying to tell you to never hide who you are because you are more powerful when you don't, which would be an awesome message if they handled that correctly. This is where we go back to the explanation of chi in the movie. So in the movie, Mulan is gifted with this great amount of chi to the point at the age of 6 she's doing gymnastic wire work on top of a roof. Her father is just so impressed with this, but because she's a woman, she has to hide her true power because only men can wield chi. No other man wields chi. The problem with this is now that she is already born special. Because she naturally has Dragon Ball Z powers, it is no longer about Mulan honing her physical skills, but also showing that she's able to persevere by outthinking people. So that means you don't have scenes like the training montage, which showed Mulan struggling to keep up with everyone and being told she isn't cut out for this. It isn't until she realizes that the brute strength the military is trying to teach her doesn't click with her. It is only when she outsmarts the training does she feel like she's growing, which in turn inspires her friends to get stronger as well, overcoming their own weaknesses. The way she's able to show her strength by using the weights as a way to climb up the challenging pillar is a callback at the end of the movie when they're trying to save the Emperor. In the remake, because she has this overabundance of Super Saiyan Chi, the training montage means fuck all because her Chi allows her to do awesome shit. So what was the point of this montage? Was it just to be like, hey bro, see that callback? Yeah, I did, and it was really fucking lame. Another scene that feels like it's ruined because of the Dragon Ball Chi is the mountain scene. In the original mountain scene, they are found by the Huns because Mushu was doing some dumb shit. So, the Huns attack them, and it seems like they're gonna die because of the outstanding number of soldiers. But Mulan uses her intellect and problem-solving skills to figure out, hey, the mountain has snow, let me use my Chinese dragon cannon to make an avalanche and bury these bitches in an ice-cold grave. So, now, let's unpack the Ice Mountain scene in the live-action version. The two armies are set to fight each other on the battlefield because Mulan's army is going to try to stop them before they reach the Imperial City. I'll be honest, I like this first battle scene a lot, and the main bad guy then flees, so Mulan and her merry men go to follow him. Mulan is then by herself trying to find him and is confronted by the evil witch lady. This is where the evil witch lady tells her she will die being someone she's not. She tells Mulan that she's poisoning her Dragon Ball Chi because she's not being real to herself. And so that is when Mulan sheds her armor so she can reach her true shonen protagonist self and show off her badass form. And she fights off the bad guys using this new power of freedom. And the avalanche scene then becomes not about her wit and cunning overcoming a huge obstacle, but the avalanche is caused by her Dragon Ball Chi's full potential. So again, the message they're trying to put out is a good one, but how they handle it isn't. Because again, it takes away the impact of her success throughout this movie. The reason it doesn't work is because in this world, Mulan is the only one that's special. Not everyone who is born is gifted with great power. That is all fine and dandy, but what ruins her big powerful reveal is that the fact she has a throwaway sister character who isn't special like her and sticks with the status quo at the end of the film. Mulan is the only special girl in this universe at the end of it. Like I said, the message of Mulan 1998 by the end is a message that can resonate to every little girl. You can be strong and as powerful as men by working hard and finding your own path. Mulan 2020 by the end of it, the message is only a few women are special and the rest just have to stick with the status quo. I know I might be reading into it, but what you showed me is how I felt the movie was telling me. This is probably, to me, a major problem of the film. Again, this is all because Mulan means so much to me. Another problem I have is that this wants you to provoke some sort of nostalgia for the original film, and it honestly all falls flat. I think the reason is because, well, Mulan 2020 is just kind of a boring film. These subtle nods in the film are so bad because it's supposed to be like biting into a member berry and being like, yo dog, do you remember this scene? Yeah man, I do. And I remember it being better in the animated movie. Two scenes particularly that suffer from this is the tea ceremony and the meeting her father after saving the emperor. Again, it's because these scenes are so iconic. With the tea ceremony, it's no longer about Mulan being awkward and not knowing who she is. In the animated movie, the slapstick makes sense. It allows you to get your understanding of Mulan's dilemma of identity. In the live-action film, it's like a Spider-Man 1 lunch tray scene. But what makes this so meh is it doesn't really shape Mulan's character besides again showing off she has Dragon Ball Chi. But to me, the scene that was ruined from the original animation is when Mulan comes home, she shows her father gifts as an apology for leaving and possibly dishonoring her family. When he is given the gifts, he throws them aside and hugs Mulan and expresses the greatest honor is to have her as his daughter. This scene is meant to show you that the only thing he cares about is his daughter is alive and safe. So, when the live-action movie portrays this scene, is she comes home and her sister tells her she is matched. Again, Mulan is happy with this, which again destroys the idea of you are powerful the way you are, because she is the only one that is powerful. But there are no gifts to give to her father, so when she sees him, again, he's just like, I'm just so happy you're alive. But then the Chinese guard comes and gives her the gifts, and you can see how proud her father is about this. This scene doesn't understand the point of the original movie scene or message. Again, this makes the message you're trying to say come off super insincere. A thing that made the original Mulan fun is all the side characters had personality. In this movie, they're so bland, wooden, and boring. And unlike most people, I wasn't sad Mushu wasn't in here because Mushu wasn't my favorite character and I found him annoying and he did more harm than he did good. In this, he's replaced by just a phoenix and that's also really lame, but he's a little bit more useful than Mushu was, I guess. But I loved Mulan's trio of dumb boys in the original film. Here they're just lame extras with no personality and you didn't need all three of them. They could have all just been one person and they're all interchangeable. The reason I also don't think you needed a trio in this film is because they give all the character development to new side characters. I say that lightly to the new original characters of Yu San and as Chen and Jun Yu as Cricket. Chen is the replacement for Shang because in Disney's words they didn't want a commanding officer coming onto a junior officer, which is understandable, but this dude comes off both bland and kind of creepy. He really isn't much, because like every other actor, they are just wooden and bland. But it is implied that he knows Mulan is a woman, so he's supposed to come off when they're talking like he knows, but it just comes off really creepy and weird. One scene in particular is the scene where Mulan is trying to bathe and he's awkwardly there with her trying to have a conversation. It's really uncomfortable, and then you have Cricket, who replaces the cricket bug from the movie. He is as useless as that bug. I'm really seeing a pattern of these dumb subtle nods that don't really work. I think what made both The Lion King and the Aladdin remake still be kind of enjoyable is how they worked in the songs. I think the songs helped the tone of the original Mulan film. One song that I didn't realize would be so important is A Girl Worth Fighting For. The song has this upbeat tone, there's no care in the world as they sing about being thirsty. Then the mood changes. The song stops mid-performance, and they're thrown into realities of the actual war, as they see the carnage that the main antagonists have done. This song has meaning to it because this is the first time they have ever been to battle, or even seen it. It shows that these are just young kids who have no idea the realization isn't all fun and games. And then in the live action remake, you have them just all sitting at a table talking about what women they like, and it's just kind of like, well, without the music, this sounds super misogynistic. The villains in this movie are extremely lackluster as well. I wish they could have either chosen between the magic lady or the nomadic warlord, because when they're both antagonists, they don't really get fleshed out either way. Which sucks because, again, I'm really sorry that I'm continuously bringing up the 1998 movie, but I feel like it's the only way I can explain why this movie is bad. Shan Yu is an awesome villain, and it's because he looks intimidating and he looks like a brute, but then you realize he's smart and he's a masterful tactician. The action in this movie is so lackluster and boring as well, which is sad because what they were trying to do is make an American wuxia movie. A wuxia are a genre of Chinese fiction or cinema featuring itinerant warriors of ancient China, often depicted as capable of superhuman feats of martial arts. So picture movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Hero, and House of Flying Daggers. In those movies, you see them doing crazy stunts like flying around in midair, jumping on leaves like ninjas, and all that jazz. The problem with the wuxia elements of this film is that the fights feel so fake. I know what you're saying, well of course, it's over the top. But let's look at the fight here in Hero. Each of these fights tell a story. The passion and the emotion of each character is shown in the movements. In Mulan, the wuxia style fights just feel like they're a cool aesthetic choice and nothing more. They just thought, hey, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was cool, let's try to do the same thing. Listen, I would give it a pass if it was the first time an American film ever tried to incorporate wuxia style storytelling in a film. But we have the film Kung Fu Panda. Yeah, I know, it's an animated movie, but like I said, it's a film that took time and effort and took the elements of Eastern culture and made a film out of love. The wuxia elements in that movie you were able to tell through the fights is telling the story about the characters. I have to give credit where credit is due. I think that this is a very pretty movie, even though the landscapes and backgrounds are CGI. I do kind of like the costume designs for some things. I think the armor looks pretty cool. And I like how they tried to show the struggle of Mulan trying to hide who she is, from having to take night shifts to not bathing with the men and having to wear a bind to hide her breasts. I thought Jet Li was okay, but I honestly didn't know that was Jet Li till the credits. But honestly, that was pretty much it. So now we need to talk about a few things, and they're going to be possibly be a little deep. The hashtag boycott Mulan has been going around, but for two different reasons. And those reasons are the protests in Hong Kong and the Xinjiang re-education camps. Before I go into this, I'm not an expert in political matters or anything like that. I'm just explaining why people feel it is right to boycott this film. So, the protest in Hong Kong started after a man murdered his girlfriend in Taiwan. The man obviously couldn't be tried for the murder in Hong Kong because he murdered her in Taiwan, but he couldn't be extradited from Hong Kong because the two countries didn't have an extradition agreement. In 2019, Hong Kong drafted one so he could be tried but also put in a stipulation that they can also extradite people to mainland China. And that stipulation is what caused the spark for this protest. You see, Hong Kong is technically part of mainland China, but is more self-governing. And that is because when Britain gave Hong Kong back to China, they set up a stipulation called One Country, Two Systems. Hong Kong was still allowed freedom of speech, assembly, the right to vote, and other seemingly democratic rights. You can see where this is a problem. China is more of an authoritative government that doesn't have really any of these things. The legal system in China uses its law system to arrest and punish people who are against the state of China themselves. So you can see why people of Hong Kong wouldn't be happy about this. So this stipulation would mean that people from Hong Kong being extradited to China to face trial would be going up against a judiciary system that would abuse their power if said people have spoken up against them. But I would say this is probably the straw that broke the camel's back, because the One Country, Two System agreement is technically only until 2047. that is when Hong Kong is expected to fully assimilate into China, which means no more of the democratic rights. But China doesn't want to wait for that. You see, China has already arrested at least 9 pro-democratic leaders, and in 2003, Hong Kong protested against legislation that would stop Hong Kong from speaking up against China. While in 2014, another protest broke out to stop China from interfering in their elections. So, you see, these recent riots and protests aren't really that new, but just another step in China taking away the Hong Kong identity. Since the protests and riots have started, there's been 2 deaths, 2,600 plus as of 2019 injured, 10,000 plus as of September 2020 arrested, and 2,000 plus of September 20 charged. So, what does this have to do with Mulan 2020? Well, the actress of Mulan, Yufi Liu, shared an image from Communist Party-ran newspaper People's Daily, which included the quote from Chinese reporter Fu Guohao, saying, "I support Hong Kong police, you can beat me now." This sparked outrage in Hong Kong and in the West and started the original Boycott Mulan movement. This led to her not appearing at Disney Expo 2019 to show off the film. But she isn't the only person who is pro-Hong Kong police. Actor Donnie Yen has also stated pro-Hong police sentiment during talking about his movie Ip Man 4, which to me, that kind of hurt, as a person who loves his films and respects him as a martial artist. So I don't personally think the views of one actress or actor should be a reason to boycott an entire production. Again, this is just my opinion, because I personally don't find that fair to the other people who worked on the project. But I have some exceptions, and maybe I'll talk about it one day. But what I can say is a reason to boycott a film is an American company's ignorance for thanking groups and people who are connected to re-education camps that are also low-key forced labor camps. Fuck me. Okay, here we go. So Disney stated they wanted to film in places that were, air quotes, authentic to the world they wanted Mulan to be in. So they filmed near an area where they have re-education camps for a Muslim minority group called the Uyghurs. And who are the Uyghurs? Well, as I stated before, they're a Muslim minority group. But why are these people being targeted? Well, because after 1949, when China took over the Shaoxing region, after being independent since the 1940s, there were clashes and terrorist attacks claimed by the Uyghurs. So since then, China has seen the Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities as potential terrorists. From the videos I've watched, one particular by The Guardian, this region looks and feels like a police state. So, what are these re-education camps? If you were to watch Chinese news bits about them, you would see them as young Uyghur citizens wanting to assimilate with Chinese culture, learning skills that will help them. You see them playing sports and having fun. But there's a dark secret. These are in fact political prisons, taking people from their families without any choice and indoctrinating them to pro-Chinese ideas, where they're mentally broken by sitting for hours in a room listening to lectures by pro-Chinese leaders, being forced to continuously sing pro-Chinese songs. But the worst is there's been reports of forced medication and forced sterilization, as well as torture by tiger chair. The tiger chair, also known as the tiger bench, is a 5-foot-long board with vertical backrest on one end. The tortured detainee sits lengthwise with his or her legs stretching down the board. His or her arms are restricted behind the backrest. The mouth may or may not be gagged, but oftentimes left unobstructed to allow for shouts and screams that can frighten other prisoners. Initially, ropes are tied tightly around the legs, above and below the knee. This procedure has been reported to cause extreme discomfort as the ropes cut into the skin. Next, bricks are placed underneath the calves, elevating the legs. Not only are the bricks uncomfortable, but also the knee starts to stress from hypertension, unnatural backward bending of the knee. At the same time, the tension in the rope increases as the bricks are added, digging into the victim's skins and muscle tissue. The more the victim resists, the greater the chance for the bricks to be added, increasing the leg's elevation and the tension in the ropes. The torture progresses until the ropes break. It has been documented prisoners have gone to a literal breaking point with bone fractures. Additionally, metal poles or wooden rods with weights on the end will be placed over the victim's legs, increasing the severity and pain. Finally, as the victim is tied, he or she is unable to defend against punches, kicks, electrical prods, and so on. One detainee said, "I sat until my buttocks bled. the victim can be left in the same position for hours, even days in discomfort. I apologize to anyone who thought that may have been too graphic, but I needed to explain to you what a tiger chair is because I need you to know that it sounds like torture methods from the medieval times happening today. And after reading and doing research, it's fucking disgusting and disheartening. What China is doing is slowly erasing a culture, an identity. These people are genuinely just trying to survive. So you can understand the backlash of people thinking who are part of such an awful and inhumane act. Honestly, if you don't want to watch Mulan, I 100% understand why. So, I don't really know how to end this video. I mean, how can I? At first glance, I was gonna write Mulan off as just another fuck off bad remake, and not even talk about it. But then it became more layered, and it became more complex. It wasn't just about whitewashing and the Americanization of Eastern cultures. Mulan 2020 became a weird political piece that opened the eyes up to a Western audience of just how much the government in China is willing to go to erase opinions, politics, and even identity just to keep power. China has always tried to silence people like that. So, if you're living in America, I urge you to vote. We have the voice and we can pick up and speak out to what we feel is right or wrong. And if this is too political for you, I'm sorry guys. It's just been an eye-opener for me. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If it got a little heavy at the last part, I apologize. And I'll let you know that my next video is going to be a little bit more upbeat, maybe. But as always, you can follow me on Twitter and see what I'm talking about and see what maybe might be coming up, as well as watching and listening to the Tangent podcast, where me and my friends are goofs being goofy and our goofy selves. That's a lot of goofs because we're that big of goofs. Also, thanks again for watching, and as I said, keep on keeping on, and whatever you're going through, you guys got this, okay? Later.